I'm going to take you on a trip back in time for a second. We're in 2012 at Middle Creek Elementary School in Triadelphia, West Virginia. I'm 9 years old in Mrs. Smith's 3rd grade class. It's the end of the 9 weeks, so that means it's time for a garage sale. Throughout the school year, I've been collecting Smith bucks for turning in my homework on time, being polite, cleaning up the classroom, etc. And as the little aspiring overachiever that I am, of course I had to have the most Smith bucks, meaning I had first pick at the garage sale. I had my heart sold on this little pack of school-themed erasers. Nothing else seemed to matter, besides whatever was for lunch that day, whether it be in the cafeteria, hopefully chicken tenders, or the little sandwich my grandma packed for me and wrote a note on. By a show of hands, how many of you have had a teacher you absolutely loved? Okay, good. Now, by a show of hands, how many of you can't recall a teacher you loved or an experience similar to mine with Mrs. Smith? Okay. For those of you who can recall a teacher that you loved or an experience similar to mine, congratulations. You have had a good teacher in your lifetime. For those of you that maybe couldn't, unfortunately, you may have a really bad memory or you experienced a lackluster education. I have wanted to be a teacher my whole life. Most of this desire can be attributed to my mom, or as most students know her, Mrs. Marquart. My mom has been a teacher in the public school system of West Virginia for 30 years now, and there has yet to be an instance where I've gotten to meet one of her students who didn't absolutely love her. This still inspires me to this day. On the other hand, I've also had a handful of teachers such as Mrs. Wilmeth, Mrs. Conley, Mrs. Smith, Miss Green, and Mrs. Bush, who all continued to inspire me and allow me to fall in love with school and my education. The impact they left on me also sticks with me to this day. However, I don't want to paint an inaccurate picture for you. I also had a handful of teachers I wasn't too fond of either. The impact they left on me also sticks with me. They inspired me to not be like them. This brings us to the question of how do we measure the value of a good teacher? In order to break this down a little bit better, first we're going to pick up our pencils and write down the need for equity in education. Then we are going to erase all the mistakes associated with trying to provide an equal education. By doing this, we'll be better able to see the staples of what makes a good teacher in the eyes of students. And by the end, you might see that everyone is a teacher at least once in their lifetime. First, let's start off by breaking down exactly what educational equity is. According to the Center for Public Education, educational equity is achieved when all students receive the resources they need, so they graduate prepared for success after high school. This essentially means that students are met with pencils, paper, backpacks, etc., when they can't acquire one on their own. Most school systems do a pretty good job of this already. Speaking for my own county, when COVID-19 hit hard, my county worked to provide personal Wi-Fi networks to students who didn't have them at home. This allowed them to continue their online education at a time when it was needed the most. Let's think for a second now about our own lives. Let's say we're making chocolate chip cookies. Now, let's pretend we're getting all the ingredients out: flour, sugar, butter, vanilla. But wait, don't have any chocolate chips. Well, shoot, now we're frustrated and there's no cookie to be had. We get so upset, we take all the ingredients, put them away, and go back to sitting on the couch, angry. This is a prime example of how a student can feel if they don't have all the ingredients they need to learn and be successful. According to an article from Johns Hopkins Medicine titled "Helping Students Get What They Need to Succeed," 2 out of every 25 students won't graduate in Central Maryland. And if a student isn't reading on their grade level by 3rd grade, they are 4 times less likely to graduate by age 19. Lack of backpacks, notebooks, and other school supplies are just another barrier to success. If students aren't met with all the resources they need to succeed, the success is less and less likely to come. However, having school supplies ultimately isn't the only resource they need. Having a qualified teacher is just as important as having a sharpened pencil. However, educational equity isn't the only facet of a proper education. Educational equality is just as important, if not more. Feeling safe in your environment is just a key to living a normal life. And according to the same source from the Center of Public Education, educational equality is achieved when all students are treated the same and have equal access to similar resources. Sometimes unequal educational situations arise from things teachers cannot control, such as a student's family of origin, their gender, or social class. While there are things teachers can't control, there are also things they can. Teachers can provide lessons to students in the classroom with all different types of people as the protagonist in the situation. By showing students that anybody can be the hero of their story, they are more likely to go out and be the hero in their own lives. Equality in the classroom sets students up to be inclusive of everyone throughout their life. This inclusivity is so important for students to be able to associate with others in the proper way that allows our world to continue to grow. According to renowned interior designer Celery Kemble, there is a reason we don't see the world in black and white. When it comes down to it, no one can really disagree that children deserve the best education they can possibly receive. After going through the public school system for my K-12 education, I'd say I have a pretty fair assessment on what being a student is like. However, I wanted some other opinions from people who had experiences maybe different than mine. I made a Google form and sent it out to a variety of people I know here at WVU, all from different areas, different backgrounds, and different lifestyles. The results of one specific question shocked me. When asked the question, have you ever had a teacher that made you not want to come to school? 89% of students surveyed said yes, they had. As a student, I can understand this, but it was also sad to see and hear. However, as a future teacher, it inspired me. One of the reasons I'm so passionate about what I'm telling you today is because I want children, teenagers, and adults alike to all love learning. We never stop learning in our lives, and once we are educated, that knowledge can never be taken away from you. If we aren't nurturing our students properly and giving them a good education, we could be missing out on all the greatness they can show our world. I recently read an article titled, "Measuring What We Value While Valuing What We Measure," that posed the question, does it even matter if it doesn't get measured? A lot of times in education, teachers just teach the curriculum necessary to get students through the end-of-year testing. While this curriculum is extremely important, I cannot stress enough that the most important lessons a student will learn are not the ones in a textbook. When I asked students on the Google forum to tell me about their favorite teacher and why they were their favorite, not a single one said because of the content that teacher taught. Instead, I received responses such as, "My favorite teacher was my favorite because every day they made sure to connect with each and every student. They never gave up on me, always had a positive attitude, and never assumed I wasn't trying. They made everyone feel welcomed, and they were excited to teach every day, which made the students want to learn as well." Today, we looked at what we can do better to provide an equity education to students as well as an equal education to students. And in doing this, we saw that teachers are some of the most important people in a person's life. Remember how at the beginning of this I told you that everyone could potentially be a teacher in somebody's life? Well, think back for a second. If you have ever had the opportunity to teach someone how to do something or help someone, you have been a teacher. You made a difference in that person's life. You became a potential source for their future inspirations and dreams and goals. My own teachers, even the ones I didn't mention in this speech, have all shaped my life and inspired me in some way. However, my parents, my older sister, my friends, and my family have also shaped my life and inspired me. And none of them are real teachers besides my mom. What's next for this world of education, you may ask? Our children are the next generation of learners, thinkers, and doers. If we aren't providing them with a proper education, our world will suffer because of it. The true value of a good education is not measured in standardized testing. It's measured in the amount of positive change we can see in our world. I can only hope to continue to become a catalyst for that change. And although many of you will never become real teachers, you all have the capability to inspire that change too. Thank you.